Hey Recolorists, going through a Shine and Sparkle tutorial. Here's my inspiration picture. I really take time just to notice in the photo the colors. So take a close look at it and what do you see? I just lightly circle the colors that pop out to me. So there's a purple bluish there. So it's a blue reflection. Her lips are almost a rosebud color. And there's a deeper shadow in there, and another one. There's a pinkish shadow on her cheek. And notice eyes are never white. They're usually light gray. There's blue reflections in there. On the skin, blue reflections, as well as all the shadows that are falling throughout the picture. So just take the time, if you can find an inspiration photo you like, just to give you a guide on how to lay out your colors, where highlights and reflections fall, and where shadows fall on faces. So I'm getting started. I like to put my inspiration picture next to what I'm working on. And I'm just starting to add the colors that I see through my palettes. So if you haven't done this yet, you can really go through and make as many colors as you like. If you can find a place to lay them out in your image, you're able to turn them into crayons. So that's what I'm doing. All this extra noise is the animals climbing all over me, which happens all day. So still just going through picking out shadows for the skin tones. I laid out a few different shades of that really pretty purple blue color because it's not one. There's probably 3 or 4 tones in there. I laid out the colors for her lips and for her cheeks. And now I'm making them into crayons. The crayons will drop into recently used, I think, yeah. So all the way, the back, all the way to the right. If you pull it over, you'll get to see the crayons. And a simple trick to really keeping things smooth is, a really simple trick to keeping things smooth is pushing down any place where you're working and you will actually get that color added to your crayon box. So if there's an in-between shade, you've layered a couple of colors and you really like it, press down on it and add it to your crayons. So I'm just starting to lay out what I see, where I want my highlights, shadows, and lowlights to be. And that's really the beginning of the process, is just getting it laid out. So I really like how different colors are reflecting on skin. Been into the purple lately, bright green. I really like mixing different colors and just seeing what happens, so don't be afraid to play around with your palettes. So I layer. I start with the darkest shade that I see, and then I work my way through the lighter shades of purples, and then typically into white. Adding a little more depth under her chin. Lightening up her eyes a little bit. And I've strayed away from using too much black as shading. I tend to use a complementary dark color. It could be a deep red, a dark blue, a dark brown, dark purple. It tends to make a more natural looking shadow than actually trying to shade everywhere with black. Adding a tiny bit of texture to her lips. Honestly, my dogs were asleep and really good until I started to talk. And now they're running all over the place chasing the cats, so excuse that. So starting to add the shadows around her nose, and I notice again it's not black, it's a dark reddish brown color. And I go over things a lot and go back into things a lot until I'm really happy with what I've created. I think the most important thing is just to take your time, not rush the process. If you're getting frustrated, don't continue to work on it just to publish it. Maybe take a break and come back to it. So I'm adding the depth around her eyes. Again, eyes are never white. There's always shading in them. That's what's going to give them a much more natural kind of glossy feel. Adding a little bit of liner. Then I like adding the color around the edge. Again, I zoom in and out a lot. This is speeded up by 2. So last thing I start to add are sparkles. And you want to zoom in really close and not be methodic about them. Don't lay them out perfectly. Scattered looks much more natural. I usually add a little bit of white with most of my sparkles along with the primary color I'm working with, and just lightly circling them in the blur mode of crayon. Helps add a little reflection. Again, teeny, teeny, tiny. And if you notice the purple dot at the top of the screen, when it's a complete circle like that, you're more in a marker mode where you'll get a clean line. If you tap it again, it's going to be more of a blur shading mode. And so I work between those two a lot. Again, just starting to add some complementary colors in here for sparkles. Tracing them a little bit in that blur mode. And there's always reflections on the skin, around the edges of the cheeks, the nose, the lips. At this point, I'm not happy with her ear color, so I'm going in and trying to make it a little more natural looking. I'm just continuing to fill in. Best thing you can do when you're working on skin tone is to work in quick little circles. That prevents you from getting any lines across the face. So now I'm thinking of what kind of hair color do I want to work with. And usually I end up putting 4 or 5 ones on here before I find one I like, but I actually liked this one. And then thinking of background colors. And I'm adding the purple in there because I want the light to be reflecting onto her skin. And remember, you're not committed to anything. You can erase things, color over things, go back. Some of my favorite pictures I've done are completely accidental. I personally like dark brows, so this one I just left the Recolor shape, but usually I'll go back in and add even more. I think that's coming from a big Latino family. We have brows. And now I'm just going in and adding more sparkles, making her a little more glamorous. I'm trying to figure out an eye color that will really pop. Then I go back in and add the shading. A few little sparkles and highlights because the eye reflects a lot of light. And I'm keeping her simple for the tutorial. There's always shading around the lips. Deepening her nose. Notice it's a really dark rosy red color that I'm adding there. A little bit more bling. And I love longer lashes, so here we go. Continuing to add a few more sparkles here and there. Really focusing on staggering them and keeping them tiny to get that reflective glow. I do like to sparkle the lashes out in the picture. So adding a few there. They're white and very light lilac, it's hard to tell. And then just enhancing a few of them. Coming in to add a little bit more bling on her lips. Again, teeny tiny staggered dots is the key. And then the nose shine. Now I'm just adding a few shadows to her sweater. I didn't really finish it. I wanted this more to be focused on the face. And you'll see I shade into her hand here as well. But I'm going to stop recording now because the rest of it you guys can just watch. So have a great day. Happy coloring. And at the end, when you're going to look at enhancements, filters, I always ask myself, is it adding value to my photo, to my picture, or is it taking it away? And I stop at the point where I don't think it's adding anything to it. I typically don't use filters because I make my own colors, but from time to time I do. I don't use effects too often because you don't have that much control over where you can place them on the picture. If the fairy effect, you could place your glitter, I would be all over that all the time. So just enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day.